My husband said he was working late, but he was proposing. Not to me. I was the waitress that night serving their table. The ring? Mine for our anniversary. He'd booked our favorite restaurant. His soulmate. My childhood best friend. She winked, said no, then slid me the ring and divorce papers. Revenge tasted sweeter than dessert. It was the lipstick that first caught my attention. Not mine. A shade too bold, pressed into the collar of David's white shirt as I sorted laundry on a Tuesday afternoon. 5 years of marriage had taught me his routines. Meetings until 6, gym until 7:30, home by 8. Yet lately 8 had become 9, then 10 with explanations that felt rehearsed. But finding evidence was different than suspecting it. I held the shirt to the window light, examining the perfect crescent of crimson. My hands trembled slightly as I lowered it, placing it carefully back in the basket as though it were evidence at a crime scene. In a way it was. Working late again? I'd asked the night before, stirring pasta that had gone cold waiting for him. Big client, big opportunity, he'd said, kissing my forehead, not my lips, before heading upstairs to shower. The distance between us had been growing for months. Separate showers. Separate bedtimes. Separate lives unfolding under one roof. Before we continue, I just want to say a huge thank you for being here with me today. If you're enjoying this kind of content, hitting that subscribe button helps tremendously and ensures you won't miss what happens next. I picked up my phone, scrolling through old photos of us. Happy, connected, real. The progression was visible through the timeline. Fewer pictures together, his smile becoming practiced rather than genuine, my eyes questioning what I couldn't yet name. The phone buzzed in my hand, startling me. Unknown number. Hello. I answered, dropping the shirt back into the laundry basket. Emma? Is this Emma Lawson? A woman's voice, familiar yet strange. Yes, who's calling? It's Melissa. Melissa Carter. My childhood best friend. The girl who knew all my secrets until college pulled us to opposite coasts. The friend I'd lost touch with despite promises of forever. Melissa? Oh my God, it's been 8 years, I know. Her voice sounded different, strained, hesitant. Emma, I need to ask you something and it's going to sound bizarre. I sank onto the edge of the bed. Okay. Are you alive? The question hung between us, absurd enough that I almost laughed. Last time I checked. Why would you? Because your husband told me you died 3 years ago. Car accident. The room tilted sideways. My free hand gripped the bedspread, anchoring me as Melissa's words crashed over me like ice water. What are you talking about? I don't understand. I've been seeing someone for about 6 months. David Lawson. He told me his wife, you, died. He showed me your photo, kept face down, said it was too painful to look at. Her voice cracked. Emma, I was at your house last week. Our house from when we were kids was in the background of one picture. I recognized it immediately. My mind raced, trying to process what she was saying. Our bedroom suddenly felt foreign, as though I were seeing it through a stranger's eyes. Had she been here in this room? Had she slept in this bed? You've been to our house? My voice sounded hollow, disconnected from my body. Several times. She paused, her breath catching. I'm so sorry, Emma. I had no idea. When I saw that photo and recognized your childhood home, I started digging. Found your social media profiles. You were very much alive. I stood up, suddenly needing to move. Pacing the bedroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Pale, eyes wide with shock. Was this the face of a ghost? A dead wife conjured by her husband's elaborate lies? Tell me everything, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. For the next 30 minutes, Melissa unraveled the tapestry of deception David had woven. How they'd reconnected at a conference in Seattle 6 months ago. A chance meeting that now seemed calculated. How he'd shared the tragic story of losing his beloved wife. How he'd gradually invited her into his life. Our house, our friends, our favorite restaurants. He takes me to Giovanni's every month, she said. Says it was your special place. The knife twisted deeper. Our anniversary restaurant where he'd proposed 5 years ago. The place we visited only on special occasions. Emma, are you still there? I realized I'd gone silent, my mind a whirlwind of memories being rewritten in real time. Every late night. Every business trip. Every distracted conversation suddenly cast in a new, devastating light. Yes, I whispered. I'm here. There's more, she continued, hesitation heavy in her voice. He's planning something. For your anniversary next week. He's booked Giovanni's, bought a ring. A ring. My legs gave way and I sank to the floor back against the wall. An anniversary ring, he called it. Though now I realize. He's going to propose to you, I finished, the reality crystallizing with brutal clarity. On our anniversary. With my dead wife's blessing. The silence between us was thick with shared betrayal. Melissa had been deceived too, drawn into a relationship built on lies about my non-existence. I never would have, she started. I know, I cut her off. I know you wouldn't. We'd been close once, sharing secrets and dreams. Time and distance had separated us, but there was still a foundation of trust that even years couldn't erode. In the midst of this nightmare, I found myself grateful she'd called, that she'd cared enough to investigate when things didn't add up. What are you going to do? She asked finally. My gaze drifted to the laundry basket, to the lipstick stain that had started this unraveling. Anger bloomed in my chest, replacing the initial shock with something hotter, more focused. I'm not sure yet, I said slowly, an idea beginning to form. But I don't think I'll be confronting him directly. What does that mean? It means, I said, standing up with newfound determination, that perhaps his plans for our anniversary should proceed exactly as he intends. Emma. With one small adjustment, I continued, the outline of a plan taking shape. Would you be willing to help me? The pause on her end wasn't hesitation, it was recognition. You want me to go through with it? The date. The whole thing, I confirmed. Right up to the moment he proposes. And then. A calm had settled over me, the kind that comes when chaos resolves into clarity. And then we give him an anniversary to remember. Melissa's laugh was soft but determined. Tell me what you need me to do. As the sun set outside my window, casting long shadows across the bedroom I'd shared with a stranger, two betrayed women began to plot. The devastation remained, a weight in my chest that wouldn't easily lift, but alongside it grew something unexpected. The first embers of justice waiting to be fanned into flame. The morning after Melissa's call, I sat in my car outside Giovanni's, gathering courage. The elegant brick facade with its signature green awning had always represented celebration in our marriage. First dates, engagements, anniversaries. Now it would become the stage for its final act. I checked my phone again, rereading the reservation details Melissa had forwarded me. David Lawson, table for 2, 8 p.m. Thursday. Special occasion note. Anniversary proposal. The audacity stunned me anew each time I saw it. Our 5th anniversary. Transformed into his new beginning with my childhood friend, while I supposedly lay cold in a grave he'd invented. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the restaurant door. The familiar scent of garlic, basil, and freshly baked bread enveloped me, comforting under any other circumstances. Emma. A voice called from behind the host stand. Sophia Chin, my college roommate turned restaurant manager, rushed toward me, concern etched across her face. When you called last night, I could hardly believe what you told me. Thanks for meeting me, sophomore. I hugged her tightly, drawing strength from the familiar embrace. Of course. Come to my office. We've got planning to do. Seated in Sophia's cluttered back office, surrounded by inventory lists and staff schedules, I outlined the full scheme. Sophia's expression shifted from shock to outrage to calculating determination as I spoke. So you want to pose as a server on Thursday night? Actually wait on their table? She leaned forward, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Exactly. I need to be there to see it all, to control how this ends. My voice remained steady, surprising even myself. Can you help me? Sophia tapped her pen against her desk, thinking. Thursday's busy. Valentine's adjacent, you know? But Alicia called in, morning sickness. I could slot you in as her replacement. Would anyone question it? We use temp staff sometimes. I'll say you're from the agency. Relief flooded through me. And David wouldn't recognize me? Sophia tilted her head, studying me. With the right disguise, no. He's only met me a couple times when you've brought him here. Plus, people rarely truly see servers. We're background furniture to them. Her eyes narrowed. Especially entitled men like your husband. For the next hour we constructed my server persona. Sophia walked me through the restaurant's layout, section assignments, POS system basics and service protocols. We selected a station that would place me directly responsible for table 12, David's regular table with its view of the gardens. The table where he'd proposed to me 5 years earlier. You'll need to come in early Thursday for training, Sophia said, scribbling notes. Serving isn't just carrying plates. There's a flow, a timing. You've got to learn food running positions, proper clearing technique, wine service. I'll learn whatever I need to. She handed me a folded black server uniform. Try this on. We'll need to add a name tag. What name do you want to use? I considered briefly. Claire. My middle name. While I changed in Sophia's private bathroom, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Meeting with my lawyer friend in an hour. Need anything specific in the divorce papers? I texted back. Everything. The house, the savings, his beloved car. Make it comprehensive. Melissa had thrown herself into her role with surprising enthusiasm. Perhaps her own sense of betrayal fueled her commitment to our plan. She'd spent yesterday photographing text messages, recording their recent phone call where he mentioned his late wife's anniversary, and collecting evidence of his deception to both of us. Back in Sophia's office, now wearing the crisp black shirt and pants of Giovanni's waitstaff, reality settled heavily on my shoulders. I stared at my reflection in Sophia's decorative mirror, barely recognizing myself. You'll need more disguise elements, Sophia said, joining me at the mirror. Hair up instead of down, glasses maybe, subtle makeup changes. Will it be enough? She squeezed my shoulder. People see what they expect to see. He's not expecting his dead wife to be serving his carbonara. As I changed back into my clothes, Sophia outlined the week's training schedule, culminating in Thursday's service. The precision of the plan comforted me. Clear steps forward when everything behind me had crumbled. What about your absence at home? Sophia asked as we walked to the front of the restaurant. Won't he wonder where you are Thursday night? Already handled, I replied. I told him yesterday I'm visiting my sister in Portland for a few days. He seemed relieved actually. More time with Melissa, I suppose. The scumbag. Sophia shook her head in disgust. I hugged her goodbye, our plan solidified. Over the next 3 days, I divided my time between clandestine training sessions at Giovanni's and secret meetings with Melissa. Together we built our case and crafted our confrontation line by line. Wednesday evening found us in Melissa's apartment, surrounded by legal documents and rehearsal notes. Her lawyer friend had prepared devastating divorce papers, meticulously documenting David's infidelity and financial misdeeds, like the anniversary ring purchased with our joint savings account. Are you sure about tomorrow? Melissa asked, her voice gentle as she passed me a glass of wine. We could still confront him directly. Less theatrical but maybe easier on you. I shook my head. He needs to feel what I felt. Public humiliation, total shock. To have his carefully constructed world collapse around him. I sipped the wine, steadying myself. Besides, I've already put in too many hours learning how to carry 3 plates at once. Melissa laughed, breaking the tension. Your tray technique has improved dramatically. Later that night, after reviewing our timing once more, we stood before her living room mirror for a final dress rehearsal. Melissa practiced her rejection speech while I practiced maintaining composure in my server persona. What if I break down? I whispered, suddenly afraid. What if I can't get through it? Melissa met my eyes in the mirror. Then I'll take over. That's why there are 2 of us in this plan. He squeezed my hand. But you won't break down. I've watched you this week. You're stronger than he ever knew. That night, back in my empty house, I laid out my disguise components, server uniform, and the envelope containing divorce papers. Tomorrow would be our anniversary. A day that once symbolized love, now transformed into liberation. I climbed into bed, alone but not lonely. For the first time in months, the weight of unspoken questions had lifted. Tomorrow held answers, consequences, and something I'd thought lost forever. Power. As I drifted toward sleep, I rehearsed the words I'd say when I finally revealed myself. Not in anger, not in tears, but with the quiet dignity of someone reclaiming her story. I arrived at Giovanni's at precisely 4:30 p.m. on Thursday, slipping through the staff entrance at the rear of the restaurant. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the employee parking lot as I clutched my bag containing the final elements of my disguise. My heart hammered against my ribs. Not from fear but from a strange, electric anticipation. "There she is, our newest team member," Sophia called out as I entered the bustling kitchen. She introduced me to the staff as Claire from the temp agency, expertly weaving my presence into the evening's workflow. The kitchen staff barely looked up from their preparations, too focused on the dinner rush ahead to question a new face. "Staff bathroom is through there," Sophia whispered, guiding me past gleaming countertops where chefs chopped herbs with practiced precision. "Get changed and I'll meet you for final review in 10 minutes. In the small bathroom I transformed myself into Claire. First the uniform, crisp black pants and button-down shirt, still carrying the faint scent of industrial laundry soap. Then the physical alterations. I pulled my naturally wavy brown hair into a tight, severe bun at the nape of my neck. A style David had always disliked. I applied makeup differently than my usual routine. Heavier foundation, sharper contours, a lipstick shade I never wore. The rectangular glasses frames, purchased yesterday and fitted with clear lenses, completed the facial transformation. I practiced my posture in the mirror, shoulders slightly rounded, head tilted downward, making myself smaller, less noticeable. 5 years with David had taught me his blind spots. He noticed beauty, confidence, assertion. He overlooked meekness, servitude, efficiency. I would hide in plain sight within his perception filters. "Impressive," Sophia said when I emerged. "Your own mother might not recognize you." The next 2 hours passed in a whirlwind of final training. I memorized table numbers, practiced carrying loaded trays, rehearsed the evening's specials until I could recite them flawlessly. The other servers accepted me with professional courtesy, too busy with their own preparation to pay much attention to the temp. Marco, the veteran waiter assigned as my shadow, walked me through final service protocols. "Remember, at Giovanni's we're invisible until needed. Anticipate, don't interrupt. Water glasses never below half full. Crumbs swept between courses." "And for special requests?" I asked, thinking of the dessert David had arranged. "Chef Antoine has the proposal dessert prepped. When the gentleman at table 12 orders the special memory, you'll alert the kitchen. The ring box will be embedded in the chocolate soufflé with raspberry heart design." Marco raised an eyebrow. "Happens at least twice a month here." At 7:30 the first dinner guests began arriving. I shadowed Marco through initial services, my movements becoming more natural with each table. The weight of the loaded tray balanced more comfortably on my palm, the choreography of service flowing through me as though I'd done it for years rather than days. "You're a natural," Marco commented after watching me serve a 4-top without hesitation. "Table 12 is in your section now. They're due at 8. At 7:55 I positioned myself near the host stand, polishing already spotless glasses as I waited. The moment stretched taut as a wire. Then the door opened. David stepped into the restaurant and something cold washed through me. He looked devastating in a charcoal suit I'd never seen before, his dark hair freshly cut, shoes gleaming. More polished than he'd been for our anniversary dinner last year. The hostess greeted him warmly. A returning guest, a valued customer, and he chatted with practiced charm as he checked his reservation. Behind him, Melissa entered wearing a deep blue dress that complemented her eyes. Her expression carried the perfect blend of excitement and nervousness. A woman about to experience a special evening, unaware of its true purpose. Her acting skills impressed me even through my emotional haze. "Your guests for table 12 have arrived," the hostess informed me as they were seated. "VIP service tonight." I gave a professional nod and waited the precisely appropriate moment before approaching their table. 3 long breaths. Shoulders relaxed. Eyes downcast but attentive. "Good evening," I said, my voice pitched slightly higher than normal. "Welcome to Giovanni's. May I start you with sparkling or still water this evening?" David barely glanced at me, his attention fixed on Melissa across the table. "Still water is fine," he said dismissively. I poured with practiced precision, the crystal pitcher tilted at the perfect angle to prevent splashing. My hands remarkably did not tremble. "Would you like to hear tonight's specials?" I asked, stepping slightly back from the table. "No need," David said with a wave of his hand. "We'll have the calamari to start, then the veal scallopini for the lady and the bistecca for me. And a bottle of the 2018 Burlo." I noted the order, dishes we had shared on countless occasions here, the wine we'd selected for our last anniversary. My pen pressed harder into the notepad than necessary. Excellent choices, sir, I murmured, then slipped away to place their order. Throughout the appetizer and main course, I maintained perfect professional distance. I refilled water glasses, cleared plates with efficiency, and presented each course with practiced flourish, all while straining to catch fragments of their conversation during my brief approaches to the table. 5 years ago today, I heard David say, swirling his wine, "Sometimes it feels like yesterday." Melissa played her part flawlessly. "You still miss her?" "Every day," he replied, his voice catching with practiced emotion. "But Emma would want me to be happy. She always said if anything happened to her, I shouldn't mourn forever." I nearly dropped the bread basket I was refreshing at the neighboring table. Words I'd never spoken, emotions I'd never expressed, a blessing I'd never given, all fabricated to serve his narrative. "She sounds like she was an amazing woman," Melissa said, her eyes briefly finding mine as I passed near their table. "She was my soulmate," David continued, reaching across to take Melissa's hand. "Until I met you. It's like the universe gave me a second chance at that same connection." As I delivered their second glass of wine, I caught more. Plans for a summer home on the coast, talk of children's names, a future built on the ashes of his fictional past. With each overheard snippet, my resolve strengthened. This wasn't just about ending my marriage. It was about stopping the continuation of a life constructed entirely of lies. As they finished their main course, I approached to clear their plates. David's hand suddenly caught my wrist. The first time he'd touched me in days, though he didn't know it. "Excuse me," he said, still not really looking at my face. "I've arranged for a special dessert. Could you tell the kitchen it's time for the special memory?" I felt Melissa tense slightly across the table. "Of course, sir," I replied, my voice steady despite the thundering of my heart. "I'll alert the kitchen immediately." In the service corridor I paused, leaning against the wall. Just beyond these swinging doors waited the climax of our plan. The moment when the server would become the served. When the woman he'd buried would rise to reclaim her life. I caught Sophia's eye across the kitchen and gave a small nod. She immediately approached Chef Antoine, speaking rapidly as he nodded and reached for the prepared dessert box, the one containing both chocolate soufflé and divorce papers. It was time. Chef Antoine handed me the covered silver dessert dome with ceremonial gravity. Beneath it lay not just the chocolate soufflé with its hidden ring box, but also a sealed envelope containing divorce papers, discreetly tucked beneath the dessert plate. The weight of it in my hands felt significant, heavier than mere metal and pastry should be. "For table 12, he said with a conspiratorial wink. "Another happy couple. If only he knew." Sophia appeared at my elbow, her eyes questioning. "Ready?" I nodded, adjusting my grip on the tray. "As I'll ever be." "The staff knows something's happening," she whispered as we moved toward the swinging doors. "Not the details, but they're prepared to be discreet whatever unfolds." The restaurant had reached that perfect dinner service hum. Conversations blending into a pleasant murmur, silverware clinking against fine china, wine being poured into crystal glasses. A soundtrack for special moments. For proposals. For endings. I pushed through the kitchen doors, tray balanced perfectly on my upturned palm. Across the dining room, David sat up straighter, nudging Melissa's foot under the table. He straightened his tie, cleared his throat. The universal gestures of a man preparing for a momentous act. "Almost showtime," I heard Marco murmur to another server as I passed. With measured steps I approached table 12. David's eyes flicked toward me, then back to Melissa, his attention focused entirely on his performance. He didn't even notice when I placed the covered dish precisely in the center of the table. "Your special dessert, sir," I said, my voice steady. "Perfect timing," David replied, reaching for Melissa's hand across the table. "Melissa, these past 6 months have been the happiest of my life since I lost Emma." I remained at the table side, deviating from server protocol. David didn't notice, too consumed by his moment. "I never thought I'd find love again after my wife died," he continued, his voice thick with manufactured emotion. "But sometimes the universe gives us second chances." I watched Melissa's face, the perfect blend of surprise and growing understanding. We'd rehearsed this, but her performance exceeded my expectations. David stood, then lowered himself to one knee beside the table. A woman at the next table gasped, nudging her companion. Nearby conversations quieted as the familiar tableau of a proposal unfolded. "Before I open this," David said, gesturing to the covered dish, "I want you to know that I've thought about this moment for months. The day I met you at that conference, something clicked into place." The irony of his words twisted inside me. He'd used almost identical phrasing when proposing to me 5 years ago at this very table. "My late wife and I used to come here for special occasions," he continued. "Our anniversary, her birthday. I know she would approve of me finding happiness again, especially with someone as special as you." Melissa's eyes flicked briefly to mine, then back to David. On cue, she gently withdrew her hand from his. "Before you continue, David," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "there's something I need to tell you." Confusion flickered across his face. This wasn't in his script. "I know about Emma," Melissa said simply. "Of course you do," he replied, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "I've told you about my late wife." "Not your late wife," Melissa interrupted. "Your current wife. My childhood best friend. Who is very much alive." David's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" "I recognized her childhood home in a photo at your house," Melissa continued calmly. "It seemed odd that your late wife grew up in the same house as my friend Emma. So I did some research." David rose unsteadily to his feet, his proposal forgotten. "Melissa, I don't understand." "Let me help you understand," I said, finally speaking in my natural voice. David's head snapped toward me, his eyes widening as I slowly removed my glasses, unwound my tightly pinned hair and straightened my posture. Recognition dawned in his eyes like a terrible sunrise. "Emma?" he whispered, horror spreading across his features. "In the flesh," I replied, reaching for the silver dome cover. "Clearly not as deceased as you've been telling people." The restaurant had gone completely silent now, dozens of patrons sensing the unfolding drama. Servers paused mid-step, wine suspended above glasses. "I believe you ordered a special dessert," I continued, lifting the dome with theatrical flourish to reveal both the chocolate soufflé and the manila envelope beside it. "Anniversary tradition, isn't it?" David stared at me, then at Melissa, then back to me, his mouth working soundlessly. "You see, David," Melissa said, standing now, "while you were planning this romantic evening, Emma and I have been planning something too." "This is insane," he finally managed, looking frantically around at the watching diners. "We can talk about this privately." "Like you talked about my death privately?" I asked, my voice carrying in the hushed restaurant. "Like you discussed your future children with Melissa using our joint savings account to buy her ring?" I gestured to the soufflé where the jewelry box was partially visible in its chocolate nest. "Go ahead. Show us what 5 years of marriage is worth to you." His hands shaking, David reached for the box, snapping it open to reveal the diamond anniversary band I'd admired months ago in a jeweler's window. The ring I'd hinted at wanting for our milestone year. "This isn't what it looks like," he stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "What it looks like," I replied, sliding the envelope toward him, "is grounds for divorce. Infidelity. Financial misconduct. Emotional cruelty. All documented. All legally actionable." A soft murmur rippled through the restaurant as understanding spread among the patrons. Someone in the back began a slow, deliberate clap that others quickly joined. David's face flushed deep crimson. "You can't do this to me. Not here. Not like this." "Funny," I said, removing my server's apron. "That's exactly what I thought when I found out my husband was proposing to another woman on our anniversary." Melissa picked up her purse, preparing to leave. "I think my role in this evening is complete." She plucked the ring from its box, examining it briefly in the candlelight before sliding it across the table toward me. "I believe this belongs to you. Not just because it was meant for your anniversary, but because he bought it with your money." "You planned this together?" David hissed, finally comprehending the full scope of our coordination. "Of course we did," Melissa replied. "Women talk, David. Especially when they discover they've been lied to by the same man." She turned to me, ignoring David completely. "I'll see you tomorrow. Take all the time you need here." As Melissa walked away, heads turned to follow her exit, then swiveled back to our table, not wanting to miss the conclusion of the unexpected dinner theater. 5 years, David," I said quietly, pocketing the ring. 5 years ended by your choices, not mine." I looked around at the restaurant where we'd shared so many milestones, now witness to our final one. Sophia stood near the kitchen, arms crossed, a small smile of satisfaction on her face. The other servers maintained professional expressions, but their eyes conveyed understanding and support. The bill has been taken care of, I added, gathering my belongings. Consider it my parting gift. David reached for my arm. Emma, wait. I stepped back beyond his reach. The papers require your signature. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. As I turned to walk away, leaving him standing alone beside the table that had once meant so much to us, the restaurant erupted in spontaneous applause. Not mocking but supportive, a collective recognition of someone reclaiming their dignity. The sweet taste of justice lingered on my tongue as I pushed through the restaurant doors into the cool night air, stronger than any dessert could have been. The night air embraced me as I stepped outside Giovanni's, wrapping around my shoulders like a comforting shawl. Behind me, through the glass doors, I caught a glimpse of David still standing shell-shocked beside the table, divorce papers in hand, surrounded by curious onlookers. He'd always cared so deeply about appearances, his carefully cultivated image now in tatters among the fine dining crowd he'd sought to impress. I had made it halfway across the parking lot when the restaurant door swung open, spilling golden light onto the pavement. Footsteps hurried behind me. Emma, wait. I turned to find Marco jogging toward me, something clutched in his hand. You forgot this, he said, extending my server name tag. Though I guess you don't need it anymore. I took the small plastic badge, running my thumb across the name Claire. A character I'd inhabited for just one evening, yet who had helped me reclaim my life. Thank you, I said, pocketing it as a souvenir. For everything. Marco glanced back at the restaurant. Just so you know, he's trying to tell everyone it was a misunderstanding that you're... He hesitated. Mentally unstable? I suggested. Marco nodded. But don't worry. Sophia's handling it. She's showing people the reservation note he left about the proposal. And 3 servers overheard him talking about his late wife. He smiled slightly. Restaurant staff see and hear everything, you know. I'm learning that, I replied. Anyway, Marco continued, the ladies at table 14 want to buy you a drink. And Mr. Rossi at the bar asked if you need a good divorce attorney. Apparently he's one of the best in the city. A surprised laugh escaped me. Tell them thank you, but I have somewhere to be. As I drove across town, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Already at your place. He's called 4 times. I didn't answer. 20 minutes later, I pulled into the driveway of what had been my marital home for 5 years. The lights glowed warmly from within and Melissa's car sat in the visitor spot. For a moment, I sat motionless behind the wheel, processing the enormity of the evening. The confrontation was over, but the aftermath was just beginning. Inside, I found Melissa in the living room, surrounded by neatly packed suitcases and boxes. I thought you might not want to stay here tonight, she explained, gesturing to the luggage. Or any night, really. I looked around the space that had once been my sanctuary, now transformed into a crime scene of betrayal. Family photos on the mantel. The throw blanket I'd knitted during our first winter together. David's book on the coffee table, his reading glasses folded neatly beside it. Each item now carried a double meaning, a shadow history. You thought right, I said, overwhelmed by her thoughtfulness. But how did you? I remembered which things you loved most, she replied, pointing to the carefully labeled boxes. Photos, books, your grandmother's quilt, that ridiculous coffee mug collection. The essentials are in the suitcases. We can come back for the rest once the legal stuff is sorted. My eyes filled with unexpected tears. Thank you. Melissa squeezed my shoulder. I found a short-term rental. It's nothing fancy, but it's furnished and available tonight. The address is on your phone. As we loaded my car, I glanced back at the house, half expecting to see David's headlights turning into the driveway. But the street remained empty, the night quiet except for the distant barking of a neighbor's dog. Do you think he'll come home tonight? Melissa asked, voicing my thoughts. No, I replied with certainty. His pride won't let him face me. He'll check into a hotel, try to salvage his dignity. With the car packed and the house keys left on the kitchen counter, we pulled away from the curb. I didn't look back in the rearview mirror. Some endings don't require a final glance. The rental Melissa had found was a small garden apartment in a quiet neighborhood across town. Simple but clean with generic furniture and blank walls. A canvas awaiting new memories. It's perfect, I told her as we carried in the last of my bags. It's temporary, she corrected. A starting point, not a destination. We ordered takeout from a nearby Thai restaurant, neither of us having eaten during the dramatic dinner service. Sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, using moving boxes as tables, we finally allowed ourselves to laugh about the evening's theatrics. His face, Melissa said between bites of pad thai. When you took off those glasses, I thought he might actually faint. The applause from the other diners, I added, the memory warming me more than the spicy food. I never expected that. As the adrenaline of the evening faded, quieter emotions surfaced. I found myself staring out the apartment's small window at the unfamiliar street below. It's okay to feel confused, Melissa said gently. Satisfied and sad at the same time. I nodded, unable to articulate the complex tangle of emotions. Pride in our successful plan. Grief for the relationship I'd thought was real. Relief at having control again. Fear of the uncertain future. What happens now? I asked more to myself than to her. Now you sleep, she replied practically. Tomorrow you call the lawyer. Next week you start looking for a real apartment. Next month maybe a new job. The rest will follow. After Melissa left, I stood alone in the quiet apartment, surrounded by boxes of my extracted life. On impulse, I pulled out the ring David had planned to give Melissa. My anniversary gift, purchased with our joint money. In the harsh overhead light, it sparkled with cold fire. Not a symbol of love, but of liberation. I placed it on the windowsill, a reminder of both betrayal and freedom. That night, in an unfamiliar bed with sheets that smelled of generic detergent rather than home, I slept more soundly than I had in months. The divorce proceeded with surprising efficiency. David, his reputation damaged and his lies exposed, offered little resistance to my terms. His attorney contacted mine. Papers were signed, assets divided. Our paths did not cross during those proceedings, each of us represented by legal proxies managing the dissolution of 5 years together. Life settled into new rhythms. I found a permanent apartment, started freelance work that had always interested me but that David had dismissed as impractical. Melissa and I rebuilt our friendship, stronger now for having weathered the storm together. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn afternoon, I was sitting at a sidewalk cafe when a familiar figure passed on the opposite side of the street. David, thinner than I remembered, his confident stride diminished. He saw me the same moment I spotted him. For a heartbeat, time suspended as our eyes met across traffic. I expected anger or resentment to resurface, but instead felt only a calm acknowledgement, like recognizing a character from a book I'd finished reading long ago. David hesitated, then raised his hand in a small, uncertain wave. I nodded once in response, neither friendly nor hostile. Just recognition. He continued on his way and I returned to my coffee and the manuscript I was editing. But as I watched his retreating figure, I realized something profound had changed. The day at Giovanni's hadn't just ended my marriage. It had restored my voice, my agency, my dignity. The revenge had not been about humiliating David, though that had certainly happened. It had been about refusing to be erased, about insisting on my right to author my own story, about serving myself rather than others. Some dishes I had learned were worth waiting for. And my new life, messy, uncertain, authentically mine, tasted sweeter than I ever could have imagined. If you enjoyed watching Emma serve the ultimate dish of revenge, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Life may serve you lemons, but sometimes you get to decide who drinks the lemonade. New stories of justice and redemption every day. See you next time.